wanted to share with you really quickly a little demonstration of Shui as a shell script wrapper for presenting user dialogues in Applescript without needing to know Applescript. You will have to know a little bit of shell scripting though. There's a couple ways you can use it. You can embed it within your script, or you can use it to generate Applescript that you can embed into your script. So there is a help section, and it's not formatted for such narrow confines of GitHub. So let's take a look at it a little bit wider here. As we can see, there are quite a few UI types that we can get to. There is the alert type, the application list, the button dialog, what you most often think of Applescript, you probably think of button dialogs. There's color pickers, file pickers, folder pickers, lists, text entry, as well as URL boxes. Always required with Shui command is the prompt text. You either have to ask a question of the user or tell them something. Everything else is optional. I'll take a quick scan through here and see if there's anything notable. Applications, if you specify an application, that app will be the owner of that window. If you put a caution or a stop sign, it'll be badged with that icon, and it'll prevent anything else from happening within that application until that dialog box is answered. So that might be behavior that you would like, so the user can't just dismiss it and has to adjust that dialog box. Of note too is that in Mojave, Apple started asking end users to allow permission. So this comes into play when you're using Jamf or some other system to run scripts. You might have to create a configuration profile to allow that. Otherwise, your users could click cancel and then it would fail to run. So keep that in mind. Shui will just avoid using application altogether so that it doesn't pop up those dialog boxes. The one exception is in the color dialog or the color pickers that you must specify an application, in which case it does default to system events. So keep that in mind if you're running some script from self-service, it's going to say Jamf wants control of system events unless you make a configuration profile. Other than that, we can specify buttons. We can specify buttons with either commas or semicolons if you have commas for some reason, and you might in your button name use semicolons to delimit those. Excuse me, we can also set the buttons for a list. They behave a little bit differently. The first one is always the OK button. The second is what you will be labeling the cancel button. You can make it beep. You can specify the cancel button by name or by number. So if, let's say, you decided to change the cancel button to say ignore, you can specify the ignore button to be having cancel behavior. There are also defaults that you can set for a default name of a button or a number, or you can set a default folder path depending if it's file folder picker. If you have a list, you can set the delimiter. By default, a list is delimited by commas, but you can also do new lines using the literal character in shell, or you can use LF to do that without using any other special characters. You can allow empty lists. You can do give up seconds. You can have hidden text or look in hidden folders. You can specify icons, your list items, alert levels, multiple items. You can make a window non-blocking, meaning that it's going to run as a background process as your script goes on. It's important to either set a give up with that so that it'll go away, or make the calling application system events so that when you do -X, it will kill the system events processes and thus your window. You can also, let's see here, where were we? We can set the output of our script to output the Applescript code, as I was mentioning. And you can also set out many predefined texts or colors, file names, etc. We can set the service. This is a little odd in the URL type. Really, of only use is the file where it will look for any available SMB services that are advertising over Bonjour, and the same for web. It'll look for any HTTP services that are being advertised over Bonjour. Let's see, we also have -S to show inside of a package or a bundle. We have T for title text. -V will show you the global variables that are set, that being last button, last text, and last choice, and last give up. These are what your script will be using after it calls Shui. It will set these values, and you can use that for, did they answer? How did they answer? -V will show those along with the Applescript. That's our most verbose, and we already covered -X. I think the best way, though, to see this in action is to run the demo. And to take a sneak peek here of what we're looking at, when we run demo here, what it's going to do is run the test menu function. Test menu is going to get its bearings, find out if it's running a Z shell, do a little housekeeping. Then it is going to look within itself for anything that starts with function, and anything with the word _demo. And it's going to make that into a variable called test functions list. And it's going to use that to call Shui with a list type, and it'll delimit with line feeds. This will be our data. We'll run an exit button, and then we'll say, hey, pick one or more functions to test. And then we have this -X that will kill previous windows that are called with system events. This is most needed for the non-blocking demo, as you'll see later. And then once it has that choice, if it's empty, it'll exit. Otherwise, it will go through a little for loop and it will run that function. So let's see it go. All right, so here it is. It's looked through itself. It's found all these different demos. And again, this is, as you can see, this is how it behaves too. It will take the topmost precedence over everything. Shui in this form is its most expanded, so it is clear to read. There are lots of comments to see what I was thinking when I made this, and it clocks in at 773 lines. It's a lot of real estate for your script. I realize this. So there is also a minified version, as I called it, and that clocks in around 118 lines, a little bit more manageable. I could have crunched it down even more, I would have. However, the way I'm using read to basically populate a variable using a here doc, it makes it easy for this to not need escaping as much, so that will account for the size. Anyway, going back to our output window here, let's run a demo. Let's start out with the most popular, buttons. So, as you'll see, it has the Shui verbiage that you would need, -P with our prompt text, and then multi-line, as you can see. The buttons OK, cool, cancel, our default button being cool, as you can see, and with the title, and we can specify our bundle icon with just the bundle. It'll look in the info P list and determine what that is. And here's the Applescript equivalent of that. Because we have -V on, it'll also show us how we responded. And it'll parse that out and it'll return the last button equaling cool. We can specify a cancel button by name or number. We can specify the icon according to name. In this case, we do caution. Next up, we can do a give up time with the -G. Pardon me, with -G for 10 seconds there. And we can make some lists here. We can put quotes in there, as you can see, and it will appropriately comment those. If we look here, we did not need to quote that. We're putting that in single quotes. All right, moving on, let's go to our ugliest demo, the emoji demo, where I just go nuts. As you can see, it can handle Unicode, which is useful for more than just emojis. However, note, if you are using Jamf Pro, you must encode Unicode as either hex or octal. There's an issue with MySQL unable to store those higher order bytes for some reason. So we are able to do it with this. You can use my other product, JPT, to encode those, or however else you would like to. As you can see, these emojis are part of the button. So when we return that, it'll be part of that response. So your script would need to match for that. If it's trying to determine whether you said no or yes, or it could just lop that off, but just keep that in mind. Let's take a look at alerts. These change from Catalina to Big Sur. So we'll first look at how they look in Big Sur, or Catalina. And as you can see, there's no title. The prompt text becomes the bold text. And then we use the -P, it's called parenthetical text, to do the rest. And then we can say OK. Since we're not calling it with an application right now, it's just using a generic folder. But if you change your alert level, let's say to caution, it will do that. On the next one, we will specify terminal as the owner. As you can see, will beep at me and I can't get in there or do anything until this goes away. Keep in mind this will cause pop-ups, and if you're using it in Jamf, you'll need to build a profile with PPPC. Next up, we can see what application lists look like. You might recognize these when you're opening a dictionary in Script Editor. This will look for all applications that Launch Services has. And it might be of some use when troubleshooting apps that a user doesn't know exactly where it does live. You can say, which one are you having trouble with? And they're like, there it is, that's the one. Or you may say, hey, I've got 2 of them, what the heck? So you can choose that. As you can see, it outputs that as a standard Unix path. And we can also do a -M to allow multiple using our command and our shift keys. Again, that's a new line delimited list. We can do our color picker. As I said, this will be system events, and this will pop a dialog. You can make a very big color picker. It is pretty neat. You can pick whatever color you want. Say OK. Come back as these decimal RGB values. You can also pre-specify what you want your value to be, and then let the user change it. They can pick it however they want. Moving on, we have our file demo. And this, if you get to a file, we can also specify that we are showing package contents, but we can simply do that with the -S for, think of it for show. So this will show these little disclosure triangles, and we can pick inside of bundle. We can also specify -H to show hidden files within our dialogs. and we can allow one or more, and we can also specify a default location, or in this case, it's defaulting to where it lives. And in this case, it's being called from within user local bin. So we can choose that. We can also specify what kind of file we want by either the UTI or the extension. Again, we can choose multiple extensions, and we can choose a default location. Next up is file name. The difference with this is if you are asking your user if they want to save a file somewhere. So you can pre-populate that with the -P. The user can always select something else, but it will be grayed out by default. And if they choose that, it will say, hey, are you sure you want to do that? If I click replace, this will not replace it. It is up to your script and how it handles this situation. However, this is a nice for free feature that will let the user think twice about something before they do it. All right, moving on, we can also pick folders. It's pretty much the same as files, except it's folders. We can again choose, of note is that we can choose, we can default to relative locations with tilde. So keep that in mind. And it will also, when it is invoking this Applescript, it will run as the console user. And that means it'll also use the keyboard localizations. In some cases, people will call Applescript from root, and a user with an international keyboard, what they enter, and sometimes, let's say for instance, it's a file vault rekey operation where you need their password and they can't see what's going on. That can sometimes lead to some heartache. So Shuei will do the right thing, and it will report, or it will invoke that in the user's context. So it will respect their keyword settings. All right, so we can pick folders instead of applications. We can pick folders within our current origin, which there are no folders. We can also do it at root as well. All right, moving on. We can do our list demo, which is what you've been seeing for this main menu. You can choose just one. You can have custom buttons. Again, there's only OK and remove buttons. So as you can see, OK button name is remove. The cancel button is skip. So that is one limitation with lists, is the way the button behavior is. And then you can put commas in there. Again, this is where you use -D to change your delimiter. In this case, it looks like I'm using actually a literal line feed, or that's how Z shell is interpreting it for this output. And we can also have it pick one or none. Once you select, though, it doesn't seem to be able to unselect, so keep that in mind. We can choose one or more. Again, that's going to be new line delimited list. And there we go. We can do custom buttons again, and we can do more than one. All right. Going on, here's a little demo of a little question and answer. Yes, there's my name. Which do I prefer, day or night? Night. Let's see here. Let's pick a few fruits. Sure. And we can choose one or more using our Shift and Command keys. And then it will take those findings and in the back end, The script can fill those in a new dialog box. I have some logic in there to count up the number of responses I got and choose whether it's is or are. So take a look at that code and see how it could apply for you. Text entry is useful for passwords. We can do -H for hidden. And we can also pre-fill answers too. And we can also have it do a give up. So let's see about the behavior of give up. And in which case it will return this pre-filled answer. There it is, pre-filled answer. And we can put commas in our buttons as long as we delimit with something else besides that. Cool, dude. All right. Here's this interesting one that you may not have seen before. It is the URL box. Like I said, there's two that are useful there for file, in which case we can look at file shares. And the other was web, where we can see the Bonjour advertised web shares. In this case, it's my printer. And finally, we'll do a little demo of the pitfalls that a non-blocking window might have and how to get around that. So you can set a give up time. However, if another window comes over it, it will get that give up time. That's Applescript, not me. So let's leave this here so it's precluded again. So now it's covering up that window. This thing is not going to go for an hour, but the next window, we're going to kill it with -X. It'll kill both these guys. Boom. There we go. That has a give up. Then we can have alerts. Again, I'm spawning all these with system events, so then when the main menu comes, it's able to get rid of that. So that's the walkthrough of Shui. I encourage you to kick the tires, give it a try, see what you think. Again, there are two versions. There's the minified and the long version. Although I do not minify the demo functions in either one of them. I hope this will help you with figuring out how you can invoke Shui for your application. And again, use -V if you just want the Applescript put out of it. All right, that concludes that, and see ya on GitHub and on Mac Admin Slack maybe. See ya.